Welcome to Limitless Minds, the podcast where curiosity meets greatness. Each week, co-host DJ Eidson and Harry Wilson sit down with some of the most exceptional individuals across sports, business, and beyond. From world-class athletes and peak performance coaches to visionary CEOs, entrepreneurs, and influential authors, they dive deep into the stories and strategies that drive extraordinary success. If you're ready to discover what it takes to be truly limitless and push beyond your own limits, you're in the right place.
All right, man. Well, guess what? We're back. The formerly known podcast of the Room Tilters is now Limitless Minds podcast. I'm excited to be back. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus, so
Yes.
Excited to get back with my brother here, co-founder, friend, and bring the people what they want.
Get the people what they want, man. That's what we got to do that.
Yeah, we got to get people what they want. And I think the cool thing is that we wanted to take this time to really kind of relaunch, rebrand, and kind of get back to the work, get back to the conversations, the discussions, and share with the world some of the things that we've learned, some of the people that we know that are around, some of the greatest performers in the world, from business to sports to from athletes to the corporate athlete, right? But I think we wanted to take some time today to kind of reestablish our footing as far as what our objectives are, right, and what people can expect from future episodes on this podcast. So DJ, maybe you can help set up a little bit of like what folks can expect as we move. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I think the last time we recorded was probably 2021. Is that right? 2020?
No, 2020. December 2020, I think, was the last episode, I believe, that was pushed out. So it's been a minute.
I was thinking about this. I was like, this is the first time in a 4-year span, Harry, I think, that we've had where I haven't had a child. You know what I mean? Like, so like that's something that's different for this podcast, right? We're usually doing that. And then also too, I got to give a shout out to my mom, because she's our number one fan. She's been asking for us to bring this podcast back. So Nancy Eidson, we are here. We're back and doing it. I think, so much has happened over the last 4 years, Harry, and to be able to still be here and, post COVID, post the loss of Trevor, one of our co-founders, it does feel good to be back here and talking to the audience and being back on this episode. So excited to be here. But yeah, like you said, we would love to, we're going to interview some of the top talent, some of the elite performers, really to try to unpack their story and figure out not just who they are, but what has made them, what are the stories that have made up their success. And so we've been able to do that through, our company at Limitless Minds and all the interactions, but now we got a chance to do that again on the podcast. So excited to be back, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I think that, instead of doing an entire life story kind of thing like we did when we first introduced ourselves on the Room Tilters podcast.
That's right.
I thought, let's pick up kind of where we left off relative to the life story over the last, 4 years, and share a little bit about what's happened, what we've seen, how it's changed us, both on the personal side and the business side. I think give people a little bit of a peek behind the curtain on what Limitless Minds is up to. And there's a lot of folks that are kind of following us across social media and certainly we have clients and prospects and so on and so forth. So I think maybe sharing some of those stories so people can kind of get a sense for like how we've kind of dealt with pandemic, post-pandemic, some of the things situationally that have happened, and just kind of let people kind of inside of our home, a little bit. And so I'll pass it to you first and kind of set you up to tell a little bit about what's kind of been going on. And let's start with on the personal side, So December 2020 is when we kind of had our last podcast on the old gen version. I think needless to say, a lot's happened since then, and really right before then. So on the personal side, like how did the pandemic impact you? What else has kind of happened since? And then like take us to today.
Yeah, I mean, so the pandemic, it was crazy. as everybody knows. I mean, you
A
go
little bit.
a little bit, I mean, that might be an understatement a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
But to go from, being able to travel, and we were impacting most of our customers, live. We were traveling to Los Angeles and Philly and New York, and always on a plane. And to go from that, in December when we recorded our last podcast, to March of 2020, where you couldn't leave your house. I mean, it was really insane. And you had to figure out, you talk about neutral thinking and what we teach. We had to look at the facts of the situation that we were in and to say, do we continue to try to operate and run our business the same way, which obviously would have been impossible, or do you figure out a way to pivot and move forward and still impact people? And so we had to figure out how to impact people virtually, via Zoom, via Teams, using microphones and all the technology from virtual perspective, to say we still want to be able to impact our audience and bring value, but we can't do it the old way. So that was a clear pivot and change from the way we're doing things from a business perspective. From a personal perspective, I mean, 5 kids. At that time, Amari was, I think, just turning 2. And so kids from 2 to 12 at that point, and having them all in the house at the same time. I remember having conversations with you like, man, are we gonna be able to do this? And it wasn't even about the business. It was about like being able to navigate having 8 kids between the two of us underneath the roof at the same time, and still trying to conduct a business and impact people. And so, I mean, I think, everybody during that period had to figure out ways to say, what is truly valuable, what's my purpose, where do I want to be, like, goal wise and directionally. And people had the time to do that. And I think a lot of folks took that opportunity and paved out a new pathway, a new course for themselves. And so that's what we did, man. And it was again challenging, but also I think there's a sense of reward in terms of being able to recenter and find really what was important in your focus. How about you, man?
Well, before I even go into some of the things that I've been impacted by over the last 4 years, I got to establish some of the differences between DJ and I. DJ, the first one I'll give is DJ says roof, and I say roof. Don't think I didn't catch that. Like,
hey, listen, my family's gonna love that you said that. Like, my kids get on me all the time about
this man said roof. And listen, the listeners and viewers, I'm sure there's some people that say roof out there, and there's others that say roof. Yeah, there's 2 types of people, one that says roof and one says roof. And so that's just so along this journey on this podcast, after these episodes, we're gonna also put some place markers on some of the differences between DJ and I, right? And also where we're like, right? But this is where we're different. No, but so I'll start on the personal side, man. So I would say, like, the biggest thing personally. Well, two things that have impacted my life tremendously, because of COVID and the lack of travel, that we were able to do, allowed to do, etc. I began to do kind of an audit on how much travel was necessary. Right now, travel is great, especially as now we're kind of 4 years or so past kind of that initial kind of like COVID launch, if you will. But and everybody, it's great getting in front of people and seeing people live. And so we're back on the road and doing some of that stuff. But over that period of time, being home, getting to see my kids in the morning, making them breakfast, right, putting them to bed, going to the games, the sports games, when those were kind of up and running again. I mean, that was so valuable for me as a father, and also a husband for Courtney, my wife. And so, I think that family dynamic, that family time, has really kind of improved, I guess, what I would say my quality of life, right? My relationships with my daughters, Gracie, Nora, and Maddie, and now they're 12, 9, and 7, right? And so, when COVID hit, obviously they were, significantly younger,
right?
And so 8, 5, and 8, 5, and 3, right? And so, so we've seen them. I've been able to see them, actually watch them grow up final, which previously I would have been concerned about that opportunity given kind of how we were moving and shaking before. And so I think that's great. I think the probably the biggest thing that's impacted me though is my health and fitness. Right. So now don't get it twisted. In that first portion of COVID, like really through 20, like from March to December 2020, your boy was
Right.
like drinking too much wine, right? Eating too much like crazy food. It's almost like I was like, we're on extended vacation, right? You know how on vacation you have that 1 week in Hilton Head or something like that, and you just eat and drink and enjoy yourself or whatever. That's what I was doing for like months on end, right? And then you were with me when on the other side of that year, we were down in Florida and we were at some potential partners
Yeah.
in their facilities, and we had to get on a scale. And like I don't think I said anything the rest of the day because I was shook that my weight had gotten up to what it had gotten up to. And then so in 2021 I really put together a plan and focus and on my health and fitness. Now it's not just about weight, right? I mean, weight is one thing. I think a lot of people get obsessed with that number, but it was more about just the overall desire to live better, right, and live
Yeah.
longer. And so I mean, since then, man, I've lost 50 pounds, right? I gained a little bit of it back, lost the back again. So net from like late January 2021, I'm down 50 pounds, right? But more importantly, the body fat's gone down, the muscle index has gone up,
That's
right?
right.
Which helps me kind of cognitively think better. I think I would like to say I'm a better leader as a result, certainly a better father and husband. Look better without a shirt on, which is good.
Okay. All right,
You know what I
man.
mean?
Okay. You can
Yeah.
just stop at the father husband. Like
No,
you
I
had
mean
to
that's
really.
critical. That's good information. You got to know, you know what I mean, that like your boy can walk around without the shirt off now.
Yeah.
So
We're
and
saying
and,
we
and
got
I
to
am,
give the
and we
people what
will.
they want. The people don't want that. They
People
don't.
want
They
that.
don't want.
People want that. People want that. They're looking for it, and we're gonna give it to them, right? No, but it's just truly it's been a big focus of mine that
Yeah.
now is a lifestyle, right? It's not like a kind of a diet, right? It's
Right.
really a part of the everyday kind of daily hygiene, and honestly, when I don't kind of stick that routine, I feel different.
Mm.
Um, you know, less less gratitude, less joy, less all the things that are good, right?
Yeah.
Less of it when I don't. So I mean, I think that's where I'm kind of grateful for that time, in the pandemic is had me kind of again do an audit on, how I'm
Yeah.
living, right? And it's constant work, but I think
Mhm.
that's the biggest thing from the personal perspective. You already touched a little bit on the business perspective, and certainly we made this shift from a consulting company to still providing those services today, but now
Yep.
also a tech enabled, platform enabled B2B enterprise SaaS product as well. And that, initially having that of a necessity, right? Just trying to
Yeah.
survive in advance. Then it turned into a product market fit. Then it turned into raising some capital to kind of try to grow quicker, deploy that capital, build a team, and so on and so forth. And so it's been a wild ride. And I'm sure over the course of these episodes, we'll talk a little bit about our business journey because there are a lot of entrepreneurs and founders and business leaders that will listen. And we're all kind of experiencing very similar stories and challenges and
For
things that
sure.
we're figuring out and we're learning on the go. But so it's been a wild 4 years relative to the pandemic and what's happened there.
No question. I mean, it's funny too because I know you see it come up on your phone. Some of those pictures before the pandemic, and where we were at, what we were doing, what we look like, right? Like you said, we had to kind of recalibrate and say, where do we want to be? I know you and I talk about this a lot with our fathers passing away, really young from diabetes. Just wanting to be there for our families from a health perspective and live right, model what good looks like. And you're right, man. That COVID was, for all the challenges that it had, there's an opportunity to be able to, be present at your house and be a role model for your family and readjust some things that needed to be adjusted. And so we really, both of us, poured into that. I got a chance to, really, it's hard with 5 kids to be able to spend
That's a
that.
lot of kids, man.
It's a
That's a
lot
lot
of
of kids.
children, bro. It's a lot. It's a blessing, but it's a lot of children.
That's a lot of kids.
And they say pressure's a privilege, right? And it's like the pressure of how do you make sure that you're pouring into each of your kids and showing them the love, the attention, giving them the one-on-one time. And with COVID, that reset that and recalibrated it. And I'm grateful for that for sure. So you're right. I mean, the health benefits and look back on that is truly important. Post COVID too, we mentioned the passing of Trevor. I mean, that's that was a really, really big hit. Obviously for us as friends, as co-founders, business partners, and it was really challenging. How did that hit you, man? And tell me, when we look at that time frame, because that's around the time too where he got diagnosed with cancer. Tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, well, before I do, for those that are listening or watching, that don't know who Trevor is, Trevor Moawad was, kind of I like to call him the modern day godfather of like the mindset and conditioning space. And he was, Sports Illustrated dubbed him the world's best brain trainer back in 2017.
Yeah.
And you can find the article. It did a really cool expose on the work that he did at IMG Academy, work he did with Nick Saban at Alabama football. I think it captured some of the work he did with Russ, my brother, in the NFL. Probably, I think, kind of talked a little bit about his work with the Clippers, et cetera. And so, and he was that dude, you know what I mean? Like this, like he was that dude. Now, and when we started this organization, we just thought that he and Russell had something special and unique that shouldn't be just reserved for, an athlete like my brother, who's a starting quarterback in the NFL, who makes, you don't have to make $40 million a year and have access to an elite mindset coach.
That's right.
And so we started working on and testing some hypotheses on how we could take the work that Trevor was doing and bring it to the everyday person, right? And so Trev was kind of, Trev and the work that he was doing was kind of the thesis for why we started this business to begin with. And I'm just sharing that context for those who weren't sure, is because relative to his impact on us, the work that he was doing was part and parcel to like why we left really great jobs at a really great organization that was growing rapidly, that we were a part of in kind of the early stages. So you take that risk and you have to have some level of significant and in some cases delusional belief, right? To take a leap like that when you have, and in our case, combined 8 kids in tow and wives and you're talking about benefits and the bennies that we had and understanding, what we had been working on prior to that. It's a big risk, right? And so the belief that we had in who Trevor was and who Trevor was a big kind of driver for us being able to take that risk. So, fast forward, to 2019, September 2019, when we discovered that he had cancer. Obviously this was 4 or 5 months before, the pandemic really thrusted itself upon us. Those felt like 2 really, really big mountains to climb during that time. Right. And, and not, the uncertainty that surrounded not only how the pandemic is going to impact us as a business, but then also our friend and co-founder, facing cancer. And I honestly, DJ, like I really actually thought he would, I don't know that I've actually even fully reconciled with it. I think that, I think that during that time, especially early on, I really actually just assumed that he would beat it. Right. Yeah. I mean, Trav, he was healthy, fit, obviously the personality he has, and he's the mindset guru, right? Like, right. So like who else, like if he can't make, exactly. If he's not going to beat it, like nobody going to beat it. Right. But so, and also he was young. Right. And so I don't think I ever really fathomed that he wouldn't like be here. Certainly, in about 2 years time be gone. Right. And so that first journey, he actually I think he handled that first kind of iteration, and experience through, chemo, radiation, et cetera, pretty well. Mm-hmm. And then it came back. Right. And so, and then at that point, and then it was all of a sudden, like, it seemed like that, like once it came back, it seemed like he was, then he was gone. Right. And so, I don't know that we ever, at least I don't know that I've really ever reconciled fully with it. I think about it occasionally, like how much of a massive miss it is not to have him here. Yeah. And then also kind of how we've tried to find, new and creative ways to carry his legacy and you know,
No.
obviously the mission and the mission's never changed. How we get there has evolved and pivoted, and we've had to demonstrate some level of agility and being nimble. But I think that, you know, and thinking big and thinking about Trevor as we do that has been really important. So anytime you
No
lose somebody,
question.
man, it's so tough. And I think that's been particularly tough,
Yeah.
but I don't know that I've even really reconciled with it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's funny that you say that too, around thinking that he'd beat it and he'd still be here. And I think one of the things that, just walking alongside of him during that time, that I saw is how he was able to actually activate and use all these principles that he taught. So to see him do that firsthand, and take the next right step, and do all the things that, you know, he's taught these other elite organizations and performers like your brother. It was really cool to see. um it was also really challenging, you know, as you know, we moved out. I moved my family out there for a month, about a month before he passed, not, obviously not knowing he was going to pass, but knowing that he was pretty sick. And I got to spend a lot of time with him out there. And you know, just from being able, the movies that we watched together, the walks that we went on, and just some of the things he shared, and, you know, around, you know, what you meant to him, what Russ meant to him, what Limitless Minds, and in terms of what we were doing with that business, uh, gave me a lot of energy to say, you know, if he doesn't make it, and then, you know, how do we carry on the legacy? And obviously he didn't. And so that's the mission, is to try to see, hey, how do we still impact people? How do we help people show up the best version of themselves? And Trevor, from the day I met him, you know, had a huge impact on me. And I feel like we're, carrying that torch, and what we've been doing so far with Limitless Minds post him passing. You know, we've been doing some pretty good work. So, but that was a super difficult time. And yeah, I miss him, man. I really do. And it's in, you know, and things obviously have changed since the last time, you know, since season one of our podcast. But I think there is an opportunity to continue the work and the legacy, and that's what we're set out to do.
No, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of what kind of keeps the flame burning.
No question.
And you know, giving up's not really an option when it gets hard anyway, but let
That's
alone when
right.
you kind of carrying somebody's legacy with you. Hey, so listen, so I'm also curious. You know, we've been around a lot of teams,
Yeah,
leaders, individual contributors. You know, and then your friends around the neighborhood, right around Fairview Park, right? You've
that's
been
it.
around
Shout out to Fairview
travel,
Park.
yeah, Fairview Park. You know, obviously you've been traveling, you know, all over the country. We've been in front of investors, advisors. You know, you've been coaching youth basketball,
Yep.
and watching, you know, kids perform in musicals. You've been watching your oldest run track. You've been, so
Right.
you know, all this exposure that you're getting to kind of the human condition, right?
Yeah.
You know, what are you seeing what have you seen over the last few years that is different, or has shifted, you know,
Hmm.
kind of you know, since our last run at this and or
Yeah.
before COVID? Like, what have you seen shift, you know, during that time, and how, you know, and how it's impacted the human condition? Because a lot's
Yeah.
happened. We didn't touch on everything, right? We haven't touched on some of the volatility relative to, you know, social injustice. We haven't talked about politics at all, right?
Right.
All of the things are playing around that kind of pandemic shift.
No question.
But what are you how are you seeing like that kind of the human condition be impacted
Yeah.
by kind of the last, you know, 4 to 5 years?
So I'll start with the individual, and then I'll go to the leader. You know, when we started this, we knew mindset was important. When we started this 6 7 years ago, we knew mindset was important. But what I'm realizing is that, you know, there is a certain kind of skill set that you have to have to be good at anything that you do. And that's really important. But the challenges that we've been faced with, whether it's the political challenges, whether it's, you know, like you said, social injustice, um, you know, these things will fog your brain up so much to be able to really think clear and make a right decision. You have to lean into mindset as an individual. And so I think we knew that before. We since post COVID have put an equation to that, skill set times mindset equals performance. But I just don't think we realize that the mindset, there's such a multiplier on that. Skill set is kind of, you got to have it just to be good. The
Yep.
mindset is the multiplier if you want to get peak performance. And so whether I'm coaching kids in basketball, whether I'm showing up, as a leader here at Limitless Minds, whether it's, doing something at my church or for my non-for-profits that I work with, it's all about the challenge, change, the adversity, the pressure, and how you deal with it. And so I think that has been made very, very clear post COVID. Now, so that's the individual, the leader. And this is when we first came out of COVID, Harry, remember we used to always say, we heard it from one of our friends at J&J, a senior leader there. He said, DJ, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how to balance empathy and a drive for performance. And that was the key thing. And that, probably spent about a year or two at least doing that, right? Like trying to figure out, okay, how do we show empathy for our people, but yet still get great results? Now that we're outside of that, one of the things that I keep seeing come up time after time again, Harry, is this whole thing around how do I hold myself accountable? How do I hold my team accountable? How do I create accountability within the organization? And what does it look like to really raise the bar and make sure people are meeting the expectations set forth, by our institution, by our company, by our team? And I'm hearing that as a common theme over and over again. And the people that are willing to step into that challenge and say, you know what, I know it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm going to have that conversation. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to embrace that change. Those are the folks that are really excelling during this time. The people that are sitting in their comfort zone and still, kind of thinking it's going to go back to the way it was before as a leader, even as an individual contributor, those are the ones that aren't making the progress. So that's what I'm seeing when you look at overall the different ways that I'm leading. Those are some common themes that I'm seeing amongst those groups and teams.
Yeah. You mentioned, the kind of this big word of mindset, right? People use it a lot, right? Mindset's everything, right? And although sometimes mindset's everything, but people do nothing, right? Which is interesting.
Right.
But then you also mentioned the word mental health. Or excuse me, you did not mention the word mental health. You mentioned the word mindset. Do you think there's a difference there? Like, if I'm thinking about, hey, I want to work on my mindset, I want to make that a part of my daily hygiene. Then this kind of big word of mental health, this big phrase, mental health. I think the two things are similar, but are they different, and how, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I do feel like they're different. So I would say your mental health, that's the measurement. That's kind of where you're at. The mindset is what you're doing, the actions and behaviors of the things that you're doing to create your mental health. And so that's how I would differentiate them. I do think they're very much obviously linked together. I also feel like they're both very important. You need to you need to know where you're at in order to figure out where you're going. And so, but yeah, I think sometimes those two do get kind of mishmash together for sure.
I mean, we know that's because, like, as we go out and work with organizations, companies, and sitting in front of investors and kind of pitching kind of our roadmap and our strategy and our go to market and product market fit. Like, one thing that's also changed over the last 4 years is that this space that we're in, and kind of the adjacent spaces like this, mental health tech, health and wellness, right? Big space. Talk about an explosion of new companies and new solutions, and then kind of the ripple effects of that, right? Ripple effects relative to how AI is now impacting the health and wellness space, how more and more companies are spending more and putting more investment towards this area because hopefully they want to, but even if they didn't, they don't have much of a choice, right? Because it's negligent. At this point, it's negligent not to, particularly given that the workforce is getting younger and younger, right? But I think that we get bottled up into like kind of like, certainly the big health and wellness space, and then, hey, you're a mental health product, and in some ways, because of what you said, like as mental health, that word kind of for you means kind of like where you're at. Like it's kind of that's kind of like, hey, that you want to check on, like this is kind of the GPS of where you're at. And then the mindset is how you actually put process together to be most optimal. I love the way you put that. But I think that for some, the two words mental health tend to be a little scary or inaccessible, or in some for some demographics and socioeconomic areas, mental health is kind of like a four-letter word. You know what I mean? And people are maybe less willing in certain communities, less willing to actually go and like seek help in that area because they feel that there's some sort of stigma against like having a therapist or and kind of everything that's the connotations around it, right? And so like it had become very inaccessible. I do think that it's kind of opened up because you see athletes talking about it, you see kind of people with big names kind of talking about how important it is. But I think that you're right. I think that mindset is kind of like the fundamentals of thinking, right? The blocking and tackling, right? The form on your jump shot, like all the things that you have to learn first before you can even go. Your form's all right, your elbow's out a little bit. That's what you always say to me, and it makes me mad. Your elbow's out, man. Your elbow's out, man. Elbow. Get your elbow in. You know what I'm saying? No, but I think that so I think that what we've been trying to establish with individuals and companies, organizations is, how having them attack the fundamentals, right? Where you don't have to be quote unquote sick to get better, right? Like you don't have to be sick to get better. Like you can work on things before they become a problem. You can work on things that can be part of your daily, like I mentioned earlier, your daily hygiene, like brushing your teeth, like flossing twice a day. Like these are things you really should do, right? Doctors recommend, dentists recommend, right? And so same thing here. Like, our team recommends that this is work that you're doing before there's even a problem. Because some of the things, especially around mental health, are like asymptomatic, right? Like they don't necessarily show up kind of right in front of your face, like gaining 50 pounds or gaining 20 pounds. I can see it and feel it. Sometimes this is you get some kind of like it can creep up on you, right? That's right. So that's why I think that's really critical, and that's why I just wanted to establish like what just kind of communicate on like what the difference is in theory around the word mindset and the two words mental health. And,
I appreciate that clarification too, because when you were talking, I was thinking about my father growing up, and it was like how he struggled with depression, and I didn't know it until I was an adult, and we started having some conversations. Actually, I got into when I was in pharmaceuticals. I was selling an antidepressant, and I started to learn more about it. I'm like, yo, my dad has got a lot of these traits and things, and and what I realized, and I was able to back into some conversations, one-on-one with my father to figure out that he was depressed. He was struggling with certain issues, but he was raised that you didn't talk about that. Right. And so it was, I really wish this time frame now would have been 20 years ago. So that my father, some of the things I think he did and decisions that he made were a direct reflection of the fact that he bottled up this depression and looked at it as something that was weak, where it was just actually his body coping with some of the things that he had been through and the traumas that he had been through as a kid. So it's I'm super glad that these athletes, celebrities are talking about it. And so that's part of it, right? That's the mental health part. And then most importantly, what are we going to do about it? How are we equipping? And that's what I've been most proud of, Harry, of what we built is when somebody leaves one of our, training sessions, keynotes or whatever, a lot of times we'll hear them say, this isn't only helping me show up better as a leader or as a professional, but I'm showing up as a better father or a better spouse or a better mother, better in my community. And that's what we want, to give people tools to navigate through life and then to do it together. This is like this Limitless Minds community. And that's why I'm excited to have season 2 of this podcast, is that this is part of the community. This is, this is where you're going to come. And we can talk about things like mental health. We can talk about, peak performance. We can talk about the good and bad and hear and unpack people's stories so that we can all show up better. And so, I want to share that about my father. And I'm sure a lot of folks, have seen that too in their own families.
Yeah, no doubt. So listen, as we close out this episode, I'm gonna share a little bit of, a little bit more what to expect for the for future episodes. Yeah. So another thing that's happened since we were, people last heard from us, is that, when Trevor got sick, it forced us to accelerate our kind of strategy and plan to begin to build a collective of coaches like Trevor, right?
Yep.
Nobody was really like Trev, but like, people cut from the same elk, people that have some of that elite background of being, part of the teams like in the NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, Olympics, World Cups. We also realized that it was important for us to kind of diversify, kind of that approach, because not everybody is a sports nut or kind of can make that tie and that analogy. Right. So now we have coaches that kind of have different backgrounds, from sales to other areas of business, entrepreneur. We have folks from the music industry. One of our coaches is the drummer for a Grammy-winning country music group.
I'm a rapper too. You're now, not post-COVID. So,
okay. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to have you drop bars right now if you're ready, or if you want to wait and then.
No, this is the thing. It's a teaser. Okay, I'm saying, you see what I'm saying? Like, come. No,
I get it, but like, I think what I'm worried about is like you being like, now I'm going to work on some bars and have them prepared, and then you're going to come back like you're freestyling. But like, I'm not saying you would do that, but some people might do that.
Wow, this man questioned my integrity. Yeah. Okay.
No, it's not really integrity I'm questioning, it's more the skill. But that's neither here nor there. It's neither here nor there. We'll figure it out in due time. What your skills are. No, but I think that, so what we want to do is, part and parcel to these, the different guests we're going to bring on, one kind of highway we're going to run with bringing folks on is to actually give you guys some additional exposure to some of the coaches in our platform. And so that way you can kind of really peek behind the curtain, with some of the greatest, coaches in the mental fitness area behind some of the greatest performers in sports and business. Right. And of course, we'll bring on some folks that aren't a part of our platform, some really great individuals that are, former athletes, current athletes, former and current coaches, kind of, gurus across different areas of business and higher education. Who knows, right? And so we're excited about this relaunch of what now is called the Limitless Minds podcast, and it'll be exciting. So we're really eager to have people kind of join us and be a part of this community, and should be fun. And so and we expect that folks will, as they follow, and then they have more things they want on the request list, if you will, and they're looking for kind of solutions, like, let us know. Continue to follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and across social medias, X, etc. And so I think that'll be really,
really, and I think one thing to add too, Harry, is we will also be doing some more short form stuff too. So there's going to be things that come up that Harry and I want to talk about for 5 or 10 minutes. So we'll plug those in too as well. But that's a great place to, if you have a question, if there's something hot topic wise you want us to speak to or hear more about, we'll do those things too. But the goal is to continue just to engage with the audience, again, grow as a community. And this platform is a tremendous platform to do it with the podcast.
Awesome. Well, listen, let's close with this, DJ. I'm going to give you a question that I did not share with you prior.
Okay.
Give me one thing that leaves you optimistic for the rest of 2024.
You know what? That's a good question, man. I think that, from a personal standpoint, I would say that seeing how my kids have grown with my 14-year-old that's going to be a freshman in high school, and my 16-year-old who's also there at Mags here in Cleveland, seeing how they are growing into adults based on some of the things that we've been able to go through as a family, and values that they've learned as a family. Seeing them grow up as an adult makes me feel really good about closing out this year. From a business perspective, I would say that I really love the team and the people that we work with, and I think we got them in the right seat, and I think we got them on the right bus, and so that makes me optimistic about business. But yeah, how about you?
Well, I mean, I think similarly, it's just it's a fun time right now to be a girl dad, right? Which I know you are, and then you have some extras. You have some sons too, but
that's right.
Both with the 3 daughters each of us have. It's kind of just a fun time. I mentioned the age 12, 9, and 7. I mean, there's a lot of life,
Yes.
being lived inside the four walls of my house, and a lot of exciting, things that they're getting into, from sports to school to musicals to different things. And so it's just fun to be around them exploring and finding things that they're passionate about. And that's kind of my goal, is just to expose them as much as I can, and also still have some sort of money left over. Right. But to give them exposure, and then hopefully over time they begin to really land on the couple few things that they're extremely passionate about, and then we can forge a path for them to to dream, right? And so, and hopefully, who knows where the dreams can take them. So I think that's one thing that makes me optimistic, is just kind of the current, kind of era I'm in with the family. And then also a business component, we're really forging a kind of a roadmap for innovation, right? And it's not necessarily about being first. It's just about, kind of figuring out how authentically, we can innovate, and really create, a coaching type of platform that truly sets out to democratize access to world-class coaching, like we kind of set out to do back in 2017, 2018, right?
That's
so
right.
So we're doing that. I'm sure folks will hear and see a little bit more, but we have done a lot of research and development into artificial intelligence and how that plays into to our users and our clients' experience. And it's going to be an exciting time for the organization as we begin to continue to deploy that and get into the hands of the folks that are trusting us, and help have them help us learn how we can iterate on those things. So it's just an exciting time. It's it's important. The reason why I asked, go ahead, DJ.
No, I was just gonna say, you brought up when you said something about the kids. The other thing is, like, I think why I thought about the kids too during this time is that with the beginning of school, and just seeing the optimism in terms of, like, they're getting their schedules, they're finding out their teachers, the excitement around all of that. I oftentimes find myself being gravitated towards my kids and coaching kids, because there's a certain amount of, like, dreaming, and they haven't been jaded by the world, and there's so much excitement that's contagious, that sometimes adults don't have. And so we talk about, we started this thing with Limitless Minds: think big, go far. Think big, go far. And it was all about dreaming, and then figuring out what we had to do to make that dream a reality. I don't ever want to stop doing that. And so that's the other thing, I think, just from an optimism standpoint, and again, going along with this community, is that we have to stretch each other to continue to dream and believe, because that's where it starts before you can get to any kind of big type of goal. So anyways, I think kids are a foundation and a catalyst for that, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wanted to ask that question today because I just think it's, right now in today's world, optimism is really important. And just know that optimism is the word I'm using on purpose, rather than just positivity.
That's right. That's right.
And because positivity, just based on the human condition and what we're surrounded by from social media, traditional media, we just have a lot of negativity that's kind of being thrown at us, and in some cases divisiveness, and just kind of competing efforts that exist relative to us trying to stay mentally locked in. And so I think and that's one question I like to ask people in general, without trying to be too corny, right, is like, what are you optimistic about? Right? And so I think that's something that I'd love for our the folks that follow us here to, like, think about that, do an audit check on what they're optimistic about. And if there's nothing, right, then there's some work to be done, right?
That's right.
Work around gratitude, work around visualization, work around dreaming, work around also maybe who you're surrounding yourself with. Usually, I was watching, I saw Gary Vee the other day talking about how negativity surrounds itself with negativity, right? I would imagine as a formula, if that's the case, then optimism surrounds itself with optimism, right? Positivity with positivity, etc. And so I think that just kind of having that, I think that's one of the challenges that I would put in front of folks as we kind of re-enter into this journey here with our the folks that are following us, to, like, let's start there, right? And we look forward to bringing some more knowledge to this room, if you will. Spending some time together. You should expect to be getting weekly pieces of content from us. And more. And so
that's in the contract, man.
That's
in the contract. You know what I mean?
It's the contract. You got to follow the contract. You can't breach the contract.
You can't breach the contract.
No,
don't do that.
So we're excited. We're all in, and we're looking forward to more conversations. And so next episode, join us, and remember, you don't have to be sick to get better.